Hey everybody, welcome to Home with the Halsteads and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making a grits casserole, and this one is in my cookbook on page 76. And I'm going to be using my cookbook this morning. I don't make this casserole every week, so I sometimes have to refer to my recipes, and I'm so thankful to have it in one book so that I could just pull it out and look at it, and I don't have to go through those hundreds of recipes that I have in a plastic bag or in a box. So I'm going to be using this, and I'm going to tell you how to make it. This grits casserole is savory, it's delicious, scrumptious, and it's wonderful for the holidays. So let's get started. This is a process, so you're going to have to stay with me, and I'm going to go ahead and ask you if you will share this video, because it is wonderful. Young people like it, middle-aged people like it, older people like it. Everybody loves this casserole. So let's do it. We're starting out with a half a cup of green bell pepper, and I've chopped this. 1/2 cup of green bell pepper. 3 tablespoons of butter. 3 tablespoons of butter. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon salt. 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Do you see where I'm going with this? 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. 1 cup of quick grits. Now this is the kind that cooks quickly. I think it says 5 minutes. So quick grits is what you want there. And 4 cups of water. To that, we're going to be adding 4 tablespoons of chopped pimento. 4 tablespoons of chopped pimento. And we're going to be using 12 slices of American cheese, and we'll cut this into bite-sized pieces. So can you just feel and see the process? You're going to have to stay with me through this entire video to be able to see how I do this, but it is so worth it. So that would be part 1. Part 2 is a sauce that goes over it before we put it in the oven to bake it. So we're going to be using 4 tablespoons of chopped onion, and I pre-chopped these and put it in the refrigerator and put a little piece of plastic over it, and I forgot to take it off. But 4 tablespoons of chopped onions, 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 3/4 cups of whole milk. And that's part 2. And then once we get it put together, we'll put it in a baking dish, we'll put it in the oven, and it'll come out so hot and bubbly and scrumptious. So let's do it. I'm starting out this morning over at my stove, and I have put the bell pepper and butter in this large or medium-sized saucepan, and I'm going to saute the pepper and the butter together, and I'm just going to cook it until the pepper kind of gets soft. To that, I'm going to add my cayenne pepper and my salt, and I think I'll probably go ahead and do that now. So let me just reach over, and I know I'm moving this camera everywhere in the world. I hope you can see it. And next, I'll add our cayenne pepper. We want to get all of that in there. So let me just rake that out. There we go. So here we go. I'm trying to hold this camera and stir and saute and talk to you. Sometimes it gets challenging. So I'm just going to saute this a little bit longer, and then I'll add our water, 4 cups of water. I'll let it come to a boil, and I'll slowly add our grits, 1 cup of grits. I'll turn it down on low and let it cook for 5 minutes. And I'll bring you back in and we'll move to the next step. See you in a little bit. Okay, our water has come to a boil, and I'm going to slowly add our grits, stirring it in, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to low, because that's what we're going to cook it on for 5 minutes. So I'm just adding the grits, into the pepper, the green pepper, the cayenne pepper, salt, butter, and 4 cups of water. So I'm going to let this cook for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to set it off, and we'll add our pimento cheese, and I'll show you what we do from there. See you in a little bit. Our grits have cooked for 5 minutes, and you can see that they are somewhat thick. So now we're going to pour in or add our pimento. That's 4 tablespoons of chopped pimento. Just stir that around, and next we're going to pour it in this casserole dish. Now this is a 9 by 13 casserole dish, and what you want to do, you want to rinse this casserole or this baking dish in cold water, and it's wet, so you want it to be wet, and I have just rinsed it in tap water, in cold water. So now we're going to pour our grits into the casserole dish, into the baking dish. And we're not ready to bake it at this point. We still have to make our sauce. Remember, I told you that this is a process and there's a sauce that goes with it, but you can begin to see that it's beginning to look like Christmas because there's a little speck. Sometimes in your grits there will be little specks like that, and I like to get that out. So I'm just spreading this out evenly, and what we're going to do now, we're going to put it in the refrigerator for several hours and let it chill, and it will solidify, and then we're going to cut it in little 1-inch squares. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, let it cool, and when it gets ready to cut into little squares, then I'll be back and I'll splice our video together so you don't have to wait. We'll do it all at one time and you can see it all in one video. So I'll see you again really soon, and we'll finish up this delicious grits casserole. Our grits have set in the refrigerator for several hours and have gotten firm, and I have cut them into 1/2 inch pieces. So now I'm going to take the grits and place them in this buttered bowl. Now you probably could just spray it with your nonstick cooking spray, but my recipe says to butter the bowl, so that's what I like to do. And you see this grits comes out so easily. That's because you rinse the casserole dish or the bacon dish, whatever you put your grits in to cool. You rinsed it in cool water, so that helps the grits to come out real easily. So I'm just placing the grits in the bowl, and I'll set this aside. We're finished with that. Now we're going to add our cheese. Remember, I told you that we have 12 slices of American cheese, and I have just cut this up into little bite-sized pieces. And I'll give you a little tip. When you unwrap the cheese, if you place it on top of each other and try to cut it all at one time, it's going to stick together, and you don't want that. So it takes just a minute or two longer, and I just cut each one individually. So I'm placing the cheese on top of the grits. Now we don't want to stir at this point, so I'm going to set this aside. Now we're ready to make our sauce. I'm using a small saucepan. I have our onions, which is 4 tablespoons of chopped onions and 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to place this on my stove on medium-low heat and saute the onion in the butter. Once I saute the onions in the butter, then I'll add our flour and our salt, and I'll cook it for 1 minute, and I'll stir it all this time. After that 1 minute, then I'm going to remove it from the heat, and I'll add our milk. We're using 1 3/4 cups of whole milk, and I'll stir that in. I'll whip that in, and then I'll place it back on the stove and cook the sauce until it gets thick. But I'll bring you in and I'll show you that process as we go along. So now let's continue, and we'll be ready to put our grits casserole together. Our onions are sauteed, so I'm adding our salt and our flour. And I'm going to cook this for an additional minute. Once I cook this for another minute, then I'll add our milk and I'll continue cooking it until it's thick. Our sauce is thick and we are ready to put our casserole together. So I'm just going to pour the sauce over the grits and the cheese. Remember, we didn't stir the cheese in. We waited until we got our sauce ready. So now we're going to lightly toss it all together. Just mixing it all together. This is so good. I have sprayed a 2.5 quart baking dish with a non-stick cooking spray, and that's what I'm going to be cooking our grits casserole in this morning. Now at this point, if you did not want to make a casserole and you wanted to make little individual servings, you could place it in disposable mini aluminum baking cups and freeze it, and then when you get ready for it for a serving, you could just take it out and pop it in the microwave. Put it in a little microwave dish, of course, but you couldn't put your aluminum in there, and just put it in the microwave, and then you've got a little individual serving. Also, I wanted to tell you that don't throw away your leftovers. Normally grits are really hard to reheat, but this particular casserole, you can just put it back in the oven if you have some left over and heat it up, and it's just as delicious the second go around as it was the first. So it warms over really well. I have preheated our oven to 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake it for about 45 minutes. And when it gets done, I'll come back and we'll look at our savory grits casserole. Our grits casserole is done. It's ready to come out of the oven. Doesn't that look scrumptious? I can hardly wait. You'll notice that it's brown around the edges and slightly brown on top. I said that I would check it at 45 minutes. I did, and it wasn't quite brown, so I did cook it an hour. So now I'm going to take it out and let it cool, and then we'll sample it. Okay, our grits casserole is out of the oven. I let it rest for a little while so that it wouldn't be so extremely hot. Remember, it's in my cookbook on page 76. I hope you'll try it. And I've dipped some out and we're gonna try it now. It is so delicious. Thank you for being with me today, being in my kitchen, hanging with me to make this dish. And please share our recipe, comment, like, and our videos will keep popping up. So let's taste it. Look at that. I just love it. I'm telling you, I do. It is so good, so good. Y'all, you have to make this one now. I'm just telling you. It is so very scrumptious. I'm going to eat all of this, and I'll see you again really soon. Have a blessed day.